That's always fascinated me. Remember the idea that she had cut off Big Stoop's tongue, so that's why he never spoke.
Oh, yes. Great angle. She was so indomitable, nothing intimidated her until she saw Big Stoop.
Mm-hmm.
That was a marvelous sequence.
And unrequited again. She never got... I had a letter from a lady the other day who said, I've been following your work for years, but I'm getting so old that I can't stand the suspense anymore. I can't wait till the next day to find out things. She's been won over by half-hour television shows where you always have the payoff tonight yet. You get the payoff. But she was still devoted, loyal, she still cared.
Were there things that you had in mind for the Dragon Lady?
Well, the first one, of course, was that business of the Big Stoop thing. Whatever would have happened, I don't know, but the idea of her being actually afraid of him, and only him, of what he would do to her if he ever caught her. It's always good to have a flawed villain as well as a flawed hero. The hero, I've always thought, for instance, of Pat Ryan as being, his great weakness was his temper.
Oh.
And every time I needed that, I would always have Terry simmer him down instead of the other way around. And with the Dragon Lady, the flawed thing is that she is only afraid of this one thing, one big thing.
You had a marvelous sequence with the Dragon Lady where she was shot down in Papa Paisan's camp, and I mean, by a man that she had betrayed, a military man who had ruined his career for the love of the Dragon Lady, and then she deserted him, she left him. So
he was a doctor, wasn't he?
He was a doctor, yeah, and he had joined Papa Paisan's camp. Well, in the last sequence, he shoots bullets right directly into her, and we think that nobody could survive that. And several months later, Terry and Burma and Connie came upon these two Chinese women in a hut on the edge of this village, and they were eventually, Burma was eventually locked in this hut with this woman, and to amuse herself, she put cosmetics on this woman, and when she was through, it turned out that this plain-looking Chinese woman was in reality the Dragon Lady. And I think that sequence was the most exciting, startling, and jolting sequence of the Dragon Lady I have ever read, because we're looking at this woman all the time, and I didn't dream that she was the Dragon Lady. Did you have any reaction from from other people? I mean,
sure, good reaction.
Can you tell me about that sequence, or?
It was just one of those naturals that come along. You could only do it once, you know. It's like having somebody turn up as an exact double of another character, which every cartoon has used at one time or another, but you can only do it once. I could only have that happen with a character like the Dragon Lady, especially anyone that important, once.
Yeah.
And then after that, it had to be, well, a variation on the theme if you use it at all again. It got a good reaction. In those days, of course, this thing was riding so high that almost anything I did got a noisy reaction from yes or no, in pluricon. It was a very high point in the history of the strip, which is one of the reasons it was noticed by Marshall Field, as people were following it that closely.
I would love to see that scene recreated in a movie. The whole thing done just as you wrote it, you know?
Yeah.
It did fool the people, because she didn't look like the Dragon Lady, certainly, when Burma started playing with the cosmetics, and almost playfully playing.
Yeah.
To pass the time, as I remember. It's been so long ago, I don't remember the details.
And the reason she had the cosmetics was interesting too, because it was in a case from a ship that was sunk. Somebody's luggage.
Oh,
that,
yeah.
You know, Burma was a pirate too.
Yeah.
And she had this.
Somerset Maugham said so, didn't he?
I don't care if she was inspired by Sadie Thompson or anybody, but the thing is, you made her your own.
Yes, I think I've told you this, Shel. I know I have. Tom may not have heard it, that one day we were talking about something or other connected with Burma. Would she have done this and so? And the Sunday editor of the New York News at that time was a very bright guy. Unfortunately, died too soon. Became the head of the syndicate later on. But I said, well, I think this character would have done this and so. And he said, I've read Somerset Maugham too. He put me in my place real quick. But so many of these characters of that day had only been written about by Somerset Maugham. Ah King, A-H-K-I-N-G, was the Connie character. He was a servant of that nature, that kind, that devotion, but that also that kind of course, my pidgin talk was strictly made up. That's strictly Middle Western, Chinese pidgin. But it made the point. Nobody could say that it wasn't true in those days. China was so little known that you only knew it from Emily Hahn or Somerset Maugham or Andrews, the explorer. Those are the only sources of these things. The Roberts girl is getting a little more coming to life.
You once told me, I think this was back in the 60s when one of our early meetings, that there was a character that was in the back of your head that you haven't done yet, and she was from a real person called the Beast of the East.
Beast of the East, yes.
Can you give us the background on that?
Well, a real character in the sense that she was. I'm a little ahead of myself now. We went to Hong Kong, and we were told, among other things, very quickly about the Peninsula Hotel and the legends that surround the place, and still do, of course. But they told us about this one woman whose career consisted of she would show up. First of all, half the lobby of the Peninsula is divided into good girls and bad girls, and she was powerful enough. She was a bad girl, but she was powerful enough. She could sit on the side of the good gals, and nobody could ever tell her to leave. You know, she was that strong. She was that well connected. Even the people in the hotel couldn't tell her to leave. That's how strong she was. And
Is this what you need?
no, well, I do that, yes, too, but there's something else I need in the meantime. There we go. This gal sat on the side with the good ladies, and what she did was wait there until somebody came and just didn't come up and say, "Hey, babe, come here," but she'd be working out on some guy who was going back to England, for instance, back to Blighty, and he would hire her, in effect, to go along with him. In those days, the journeys were much longer than now in the airplane. It was a boat journey, and she would go with him, and she was his last shot at the Orient. She would be his woman all the way to back to England, and then she would go sit in the lobby of a hotel in London and do the same thing in reverse. And this is all she did. She got paid. She didn't just get a boat ride out of it.
Wow.
And so she became
Half body will travel, huh?
And she was gorgeous. She was blonde, by the way, more on the Burma style than the Dragon Lady.
Oh. Is she going to turn up in Steve Canyon?
Well, she's always waiting in the wings there. She's got nothing else to do. And I've heard the phrase, by the way, since we've been back from Hong Kong. I've heard it used, like in, if you saw it in Raiders of the Lost Ark or something. I don't remember now exactly where I saw it, but it was that kind of pickup on the thing. She was a town character, you know. She's like, who can I mention, that she was as well known as Nell Gwynn was in her day in London. The ultimate courtesan of the